Cool. All right, let's go ahead and get started. You know what? I didn't remember my gavel today, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Good. I'm going to start off by approving today's agenda, and I think I'm expecting a motion on this today, potentially from Duncan, about amending the agenda.
Am I audible? Okay. I would like to move to amend the agenda to add a piece of legislation. Now, I believe this would require a motion to suspend the standing rules as well.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, and just really quickly, the piece of agenda is related to the new chancellor hiring committee. This bill got brought to me pretty quickly in the past day or so, but I think it's pretty timely. So, but it's up to you all. So there is now a motion on the floor to amend the agenda to add that to our docket today. Do I hear a second? All right. Any objections? Hearing none, that will pass by unanimous consent. All right. And then so the agenda will now be amended to include, I think it's 54-022 onto the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with that amendment assumedly added now?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? All right. Thank you, everyone. There were no objections, I assume. Okay. Great. We're going to start with a couple of invited speakers today that I think are going to be super relevant, and I'm excited to have them here. So we're going to start off today with Ken Pittman, who's the Executive Director for Campus Health. And also, I'm sure you can introduce yourself better than I could, but I'll go ahead and welcome you up here. Who's going to talk a little bit more about health insurance, everyone's favorite. So.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie. Perfect. And I just hit advance it. Perfect. Very good. So, well, hello. We really appreciate the invitation. For those on Zoom, I am standing up. So hopefully it's I'm visible and you can hear me. I brought with me today from, and my role is Executive Director of Campus Health, which includes both Campus Health and CAPS. We're a 100,000 visit, a 180 employee, 60,000 prescription, multi-specialty medical group. And that's both in the medical space and the mental health space. But we also are very involved in providing leadership and coordination of many campus-specific health insurance plans. So I brought with me this evening Kim McCown, who's our Director of Finance and Lots of Things Insurance, and Amy Sauls, who's our Director of Pharmacies and Professional Services, which includes both of our on-campus pharmacies, our travel clinic, our lab, radiology, and also our contracted dental clinic. And what I wanted to do this evening is to talk a little bit about our UNC system insurance plan, our RATA plan, some changes that are forthcoming that I believe Jake Diana might have briefed this group about before, and let all of you know kind of where we are in the process and what to expect this semester. And then I wanted to briefly end with our where we are on dental insurance and the work that's been done previously and some options that we have hopefully in the future. And then save some time for some questions and some discussion, and try to do that all in 15-20 minutes, because it's, of course, insurance is not complex at all. So here we go. Brief baseline on all of our campus insurance plans. And the reason I want to start there is because I want to make sure that everybody in the room and on Zoom at least has some understanding. So for many of you, I may be repeating something that you already know. Many graduate and professional students who are not covered by the RATA plan or do not have access to another health insurance plan to use for purposes of meeting the insurance requirement, enroll in the system-wide student health insurance plan. And currently at Chapel Hill, we have about 4,300 enrollees this past semester. I think there's about 40,000 enrollees system-wide. All 16 campuses have the exact same insurance plan. And we're going to talk about why that makes it a little bit complex for us. You'll see, I just put a line with all of the benefits that plan comes with. The system-wide student health insurance plan does not have dependent coverage.
Thank you.
and there are no plans for it to have
All right,
dependent
okay.
coverage. We'll talk a little bit about that. If this plan was on the Affordable Care Act exchange, it would be rated around a high silver plan and has an annual premium of about $2,800. One of the things I wanted to introduce you to, if you don't know this term, is a medical loss ratio. It's an insurance term that essentially measures the percentage of premiums that are paid for insurance that actually then get paid out in claims. So the UNC system plan has a 90% medical loss ratio. That means that of all the premiums that students across the system pay in to get the insurance, Blue Cross pays 90% of that out in medical claims, and presumably then would keep the other 10%. Does that make sense? But those students that are enrolled in the student health insurance plan at UNC Chapel Hill, so our cohort of 4,300 students, we have a medical loss ratio of 117%. That means that the claims paid are 117% of the premiums paid in. The simple way to think about that is Blue Cross loses money on UNC Chapel Hill enrollees. We utilize healthcare to a far greater extent than other campuses. Now, that would not be particularly surprising if you think about the fact that in healthcare, supply kind of drives demand many times, and we're kind of in a medical mecca. We're surrounded by significant healthcare resources. Our students, many have actually chosen to come to UNC Chapel Hill because they have chronic health conditions, and they need to be in an academic environment which can meet their needs. But that will be important. Essentially, what happens is that other schools throughout the UNC system actually help subsidize healthcare for UNC Chapel Hill students. The graduate student health insurance plan that many of you are familiar with, otherwise known as the RATA plan. This past semester, we had 3,140 students enrolled and 94 dependents because the RATA plan does have dependent coverage. Gives you a sense of what the benefits look like, particularly as it relates to the student health insurance plan. If it was rated on the Affordable Care Act, it would be a high gold or a platinum rated plan. The RATA plan is a magnificent health insurance plan. There are very few insurance plans now that have a $400 deductible. That is incredibly low. Or that have an out-of-pocket maximum at $2,000, which means that after you reach $2,000 in out-of-pocket, insurance is going to pay 100%. It's an 80-20 plan. You'll remember that student health insurance plan system-wide was a 70-30 plan, which means that insurance pays 70% and out-of-pocket for students is 30%. The annual premium that the departments pay is $5,100 a year. They pay it on a monthly basis. It's a significant investment that departments pay. But it is a UNC Chapel Hill specific plan. So our campus controls the renewal. We negotiate the premiums. It's our plan. While state also has an RATA plan, as an example, there's not a collaboration. And when you see our medical loss ratio, they would not probably want us in terms of the risk pool. This will be particularly important again when we talk about where the system is going. I just threw on here the postdoc plan. So folks, if you were interested in knowing how does it compare to the RATA plan, tells you how many postdocs are enrolled and how many dependents. It also has very good benefits. It is not considered a student health insurance plan. It's considered an employer plan. And that means it has COBRA. So when postdocs leave their positions, they have the opportunity to buy an extension benefit. It's gold rated. It tells you what the departments pay on an annual basis for their postdocs. It's paid on a monthly basis. The postdoc plan also has a vision benefit. The postdoc is a consortium plan. The 6 schools at the bottom all go together, even though UNC Chapel Hill has the overwhelming number of postdocs on the plan. We in Chapel Hill add on a vision benefit at $72 a year. That's like glasses, contacts, optometry kinds of services. And then just to provide context, I promise this is the last baseline slide. Employees at UNC Chapel Hill, this is the state health plan. Significant difference from all of the other plans, as you will see. If you're a state employee and you buy into the 80/20 plan, it's a $1,250 deductible before your insurance kicks in. You have to get up to almost $5,000 out of pocket maximum. And if you're going to buy that insurance for your dependent, it's $8,400 a year. And there's also a 70/30 plan option. It would be on the lower silver or bronze rated if it was on the Affordable Care Act. I want to try to provide that comparison just to try to set a baseline that our students, whether they are paying for the system-wide plan themselves or whether they are on the RATA plan or postdoc plan paid for by their departments, have relatively favorable health insurance with significant benefits. One of the things that has always been most important since I've been doing this for the last over a decade is that when we do focus groups, when we ask students, when we ask about what is most important, UNC Chapel Hill students have always find benefit design to be the most important. What is covered? They want a rich benefit design. That is not necessarily the case at other UNC system schools. They are much more cost and premium driven. They want insurance that will meet the insurance requirement, but many of those campuses will tell you get the premium absolutely as low as you can. We care less about the richness of the benefits. We want a plan that is affordable that we can use to meet the insurance requirements of the state because we may not have other insurance options. Does that make sense? So there are different sensibilities about insurance across the system. What the Board of Governors is now considering is they are considering moving from a fully insured to a self-funded plan. Fully insured means that they go out to an insurance company, they buy a plan for the students, the insurance company takes on all the risk for that plan, and the insurance company sets the premium based upon the previous year's utilization. The Board of Governors is considering moving to a self-funded plan, which would mean that they would take on all of the financial risk associated with that plan. So what would happen? Their goal is to offer good student health insurance for those who need it and don't have the ability to get it from other sources. But they want to control premium costs and mitigating any future increases to premiums. They want to keep it very affordable. That's really in line with their mission of keeping tuition and fees affordable, in some instances flat over the past few years, and they want very much, and I certainly am not speaking anyway for the Board of Governors, but my understanding is that is the goal associated with their looking at a self-funded plan. They would assume the risk. They would go out and they would contract with a third-party administrator. So they would do an RFP and they would get quotes from Blue Cross and Aetna and United and Cigna to come in and essentially say, we're not going to take the risk, but for a set fee, we're going to do all the billing and claims management, all the administrative functions of insurance. And by the way, we have a provider network. So all of these various hospitals and physician offices and other providers that we're in network with, and you can buy our network so that if we get the contract, anyone that goes to, if it's Aetna, an Aetna provider would be in network with their with the student health insurance plan. They hired a consulting firm named Gallagher. Gallagher is recommending that they go self-funded, has told them how much they can expect to save for students by going to a self-funded model. And initially, we have been now told and confirmed that it will not include the UNC Chapel Hill RATA plan, nor the consortium postdoc plan. So we're just talking about that student health insurance plan that non-RAs and TAs would enroll in if they needed that to meet the insurance requirement. Does that make sense? So we're good right now in terms of being able to maintain our campus-specific RATA plan and the postdoc plan. I think you were wanting to go ahead and, okay, very good. I'll keep going and then I promise I'll save time. Here are some 2024-25 next plan year implications that I feel comfortable stating. The UNC system has realized that if they move to a self-funded plan, it is going to take some time to do the things they need to do to have this in place. Initially, they said they wanted this in place for the next plan year, an academic year, 2024-25. And most of us on campuses, myself at the top of the list, said, no way. I mean, it would be very, very difficult for us to have that ready. So what the system has done is they have asked Blue Cross for a 1-year extension to the current Student Blue contract so that it would work like it's kind of worked in the past. It would be a fully insured plan for 2024-25. We would get premiums to renew at renewal. We would negotiate that. And based on utilization, we would essentially do the same thing next year that we're doing now with the student health insurance plan. However, they have asked, based upon the quotes they've asked for, there is a chance that there could be, all of this is very could be, should, maybe, so please take that into account. There could now be differentiated premiums for undergraduate and graduate and professional students because, of course, and many other schools, universities across the country and systems have done this because they recognize that graduate and professional students, no offense here, are typically older, typically have begun to have different health issues, and they are much higher utilizers than the undergrads. So the undergrads, as insurance is operated, subsidize to some extent the healthcare experience and costs of graduate and professional students. And so the system is, and so what happens is that the UNC system schools that have 95% of their students are undergrads believe that they are subsidizing the Chapel Hills and States of the world who have a significant amount of graduate and professional students. Does that make sense? And they are. So we may see at least the system consider different premiums for undergrads and graduate and professional students. And again, it's not uncommon. And then in the future, some of the things that you should expect is that there could be changes in the benefit design to achieve premium and utilization control. If the goal is to control premium, the way you do that is that you will likely not be able to have as rich a plan in terms of benefits if you're going to achieve some of those premium savings. That is all speculation and completely hypothetical. I talked about the differentiated premiums for undergrad and grad populations. They could also consider campus-specific premium differences. So they could say, well, you know, Chapel Hill, y'all utilize the heck out of your plan. So if benefit design is what's really important to y'all, then we're going to give you a higher benefit design, but you're going to have to pay for it. So you're going to have a higher premium than maybe Western Carolina, I'm completely making that up, who decides that they want a different benefit design and to pay less in premium. There also is a consideration that international students would be required to purchase the student health insurance plan. International students may now use a plan from their home country or purchase other plans in order to meet the requirements. There are many schools and university systems across the country that require their international students to purchase their student health insurance plan to make sure that they have adequate coverage for when they're in the studying in the United States. We also need to have some sensibility about whether or not we are having a requirement for international students that treats that group of students and that differently than we do other students, and what the implications of that are. We're hopeful that the system will understand the nuance of that and take that into consideration as they're making decisions. Just because the RATA plan is not going to be included initially in this, it does not mean that the Board of Governors could not at some time decide that they wanted to integrate the RATA plan into this self-funded model. If their goal is premium control, I think we're trying to make the argument a little bit that that's not necessarily the group that they would want included. Does that make sense? In their self-funded general student health insurance plan. So we will see, but at least it will not be in the initial year. Very quickly, let's talk about dental insurance. I promise I can go quick through this. For those that just need a primer, very quickly, there's a big difference between medical and dental insurance. And for some of you, you already know that, particularly the public health students and others that have gone through this. But I just wanted to make sure you know that many people start thinking about dental insurance in terms of it being very much similar to what they've experienced with health insurance, and it's different. Dental typically has lower deductibles, but they typically, even if you have dental insurance, you still have higher out-of-pocket costs at the time of service. Dental doesn't have out-of-pocket maximums. Like I said before, you know, like I forgot what the RATA plan is, but a $2,000 out-of-pocket maximum where once you've paid $2,000 in healthcare costs, insurance is going to pick up 100%. Dental does just almost the converse. They have a maximum limit so that your dental plan, they pay so much, and when they get to that point, you don't have insurance anymore. You end up paying 100% of whatever the remaining costs are. Dental has much higher co-insurance, so preventive services are often covered, cleanings at 100%, but once you get into the root canal and crown and those kinds of things, then you're talking about not 80-20 kind of coverage like many of us are used to in health insurance. It's more like 50-50, so higher out of pocket. And many dentists, many of you may have already found this, so I may be stating something you already know, are not really in-network providers. There are many dental practices that don't take, they take very few dental insurance plans. What they end up doing is they'll file it for you if you want them to, but you'll still have to pay up front, and then the dental plan will reimburse you, or they'll just give you a walkout statement and you'll have to file on your own. So my point of all that is it's a very different game in the dental space. Here's what we've done to date, and then I'm going to tell you where we are right now in working with the graduate school and many of you in professional schools and many of your departments. First of all, the UNC system, that student health insurance plan that's system-wide controlled, they are not interested in offering dental insurance. So we can get that off the board. The way that you're going to get savings, you're going to get good premiums, is if you buy dental insurance for a big population, not have it be voluntary. In other words, anybody that wants dental insurance, we have a plan here and you can enroll if you want to, because what happens? Everybody that thinks they're going to need dental insurance signs up for the dental insurance, and the premiums are not affordable because you have all the high utilizers in the plan. So they're not probably going to do that. You've got to have some kind of a mandatory plan. So there's no plans to offer voluntary dental insurance to non-RATA students. One of the things I've been working on for several years is how can we get the plan at Chapel Hill and potentially the postdoc consortium plan to have dental benefits as part, and by the way, get the departments to pay for it as a benefit to their RAs and TAs in this case. So we went to the Alumni Association. They have a dental plan that they offer all the alums of UNC Chapel Hill. And it's actually part of a plan that, say, Michigan would offer their alums and UCLA would offer their alums. So it's a huge group. And I asked the question, couldn't we provide that plan, meaning the departments purchase that plan for their RAs and TAs even before they graduate? So they get access to the alumni plan that they're going to get 1 or 2 years from now. And That was great. It was going well. And then we figured out that the Alumni Association tax status is different than the university. They're a separate 501c3, and we would have to go through state bidding and get quotes and allow other dental plans, not just the ones selected by the Alumni Association, because they didn't have to go through that process. So, but I put that up there because I wanted you to know I'd been doing something. So I have worked on that, and that didn't work. So then I just wanted to remind everybody before we get to where we are, and I think we're in a good place. So that's the foreshadowing, is that all of you know that we have a contracted dental clinic within Campus Health called Campus Smiles. I hope maybe you know. And they have a membership program right now that I just wanted to make sure all of you were aware of. It is not dental insurance. So there is a differentiation. But this membership program is such that for a certain annual rate, and I have that up here on the screen, when students use the dental clinic at Campus Health for that basic $217 a year, they can get one exam and dental cleaning, they can get their x-rays, they can have an emergency visit, and they can get a 20% discount on all of the charges at the Campus Smiles Dental Clinic if they use that clinic. It's not insurance, but it was established as a way to provide a benefit to our students who are utilizing the Campus Smiles Dental Clinic. And I just wanted to make sure y'all were aware that there is something in place for those that don't have dental insurance, but gosh, they wish they could at least have some form of dental, an array of dental services for a reasonable price. Here's where we are. That's where you've been trying to get to. We are now vetting the provision of paid dental insurance for RAs and TAs with the deans and department chairs of all of the graduate and professional departments. Maybe some of you wish I'd started with that. So we're vetting that. It is on their agenda, and it's something that they are considering. And now would be the time, not that you haven't before, but for the advocacy to begin if that was something that you were interested in. When we asked Dental Blue last year for quotes, they gave us quotes for a medium benefits plan at $324 a year and a high benefits plan of $420 a year. I won't provide specifics about what the difference is between medium and high, but if you think about it, think back to how many RAs and TAs we have. That will be an over $1 million cost to the university to provide that coverage to the RAs and TAs. We have requested a 2024 quote, but there is a chance that because it would be a separate kind of dental plan that we would be having to purchase, we would have to go as a state entity through a request for proposal and a bid and a quote process. So if we have to go down that route, that is the route that is more is doable. And once the deans and department chairs say this is something we want to provide for our RAs and TAs, then we will get on it. And it's something we feel like that we could have in place for 2024-25. So that's good news. The maybe better news, and that what we're exploring, is that in all of our health insurance plans, we are required to meet the requirements of the Affordable Care Act. And one of the things that all ACA compliant health insurance plans have to have in place is they have to have pediatric dental benefits. So health insurance plans have to have pediatric dental coverage up to a certain age. I can't even tell you what that age is. But what Blue Cross has done for Wake Forest, as an example, is they have removed that age limit and have provided the premium based upon providing dental insurance benefits within the health insurance plan. So for us, what that would mean is take our RATA plan, take out the age requirement maximum for pediatric benefits, and say we want to provide dental to all of our RAs and TAs and up the premium based upon those dental benefits. Does that make sense so far? And what that would do for us is it would be in our RATA plan, and we wouldn't have to go bid it. We wouldn't have to do an RFP. We could just get, it would be a different benefit design. in our RATA plan. And that we are thinking could be the most seamless way to do this if the deans and the department chairs decided that they wanted to provide this as a benefit. And what I will tell you is that the leadership of the graduate school, Dean Meyer Davis, Kate McAnulty, that group are very supportive of us heading in this direction some way. And we think that we're in a stronger position than we've been previously as it pertains to dental benefits. That's as quickly as I could have done that. But which may or may not have been successful. But questions before you get to libraries? Yes.
And you said that the potential dental benefits included in the RATA plan could be implemented as soon as 24, 25?
Our goal is 2024-25, that plan year. Yeah. That's our hope. Yes, sure.
Thank you. My question is, so the question I get from constituents constantly is how can we advocate for when we're doing the benefit, like getting into specifics about the benefits when we get to the RATA plan. Everyone wants to know, how can I advocate for myself, or like how can we, try to basically make sure that graduate students' voices are part of that conversation? Do you have any thoughts about, I know we're looking a little further forward than this fall, which is great, and I'm really happy to hear that. But do you have any thoughts about what that's going to look like?
I'll answer that in two parts. First is because we know that the RATA plan is going to remain a campus-specific plan for 2024-25. You can be assured that benefit design is going to be continue to be very important and prioritized as it always has been. And so and you've seen that the RATA plan that you have right now is very good. And that's, people want to maintain that. I think where the advocacy will occur is if the self-funded plan ultimately begins to evaluate whether to roll the RATA plan into that self-funded model. When that occurs, and all of the Senate would know that, and we would advise them that that's something that the system is considering. At that point, I think that your voice would need to be heard about concerns that you're getting from your constituents about a degradation of benefits. And I would say at that point, the advocacy would probably need to be, is there a way that we can allow campuses to have more individual decision-making about what makes sense? It is completely fine for some campuses to be really focused on cost and premium, because for the demographic of their student body, that could be the primary driving factor in their health insurance choices. That just may not be the same priorities that we have in Chapel Hill. And I'm speaking in generalities right now. Premium is very important to many students in Chapel Hill. I'm just saying in general. Did I go way beyond what? Okay.
Thank you for coming and talking to us, Ken. Do you happen to have data on the loss ratio for the G-SHIP plan?
Yes. Yes, I do. And I'm going to have sort of make it up right now. No, I mean, I have exact data that I can get to you. It is over 100%, but it is not 117%. How's that? And the reason for that is because the G-SHIP is relatively expensive. So you saw that premium. I think it was $5,100 annual premium that your departments pay for you. But it's in the last couple of years, it's highly utilized. It's been in the 97 to 98%, up to about 102 or 103%. The RATA plan, and the reason for that is it's less than the student health insurance plan because the premiums are higher. So in order to achieve that percent of premium, on claims paid, it's obviously going to have to be higher. The RATA plan, because it provides dependent coverage, typically has a significant number of dependents that are high cost claimants, meaning that they have health insurance claims in excess of $100,000 a year. If they have a chronic health condition, if they have a major injury, et cetera. So thank goodness they have insurance. That's, I'm so glad that we're able to provide that level of benefit. And it's driven to a certain extent by a significant number of high cost claimants, not just in the dependent space, but also in the enrollees.
So the only way that the Blue Cross Blue Shield is being able to offer that then is they have the additional insurance for those high cost claimants that's making it possible for them to still.
They get secondary insurance that they buy for that. I think that we've always gotten as competitive how to say this, as competitive a premium as can be provided us based upon our utilization from Blue Cross. And they had been willing to not have a profit margin on the UNC Chapel Hill and, quite frankly, the NC State graduate plans, because they know that they have the system-wide student health insurance plan business. Does that make sense? So we've gotten competitive premiums because we've been a little bit of their loss leader in order to be able to have that plan, which is 40,000 enrollees system-wide. It begs the question about if for some reason Blue Cross did not have the self-insured student health insurance plan eventually system-wide, what that will do to our premium renewals on our RATA plan. I'm completely making that up. There's been no discussion or anything. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, which is why I brought these two to save me from myself. But does everybody understand I think we've gotten some good deals based on the fact that Blue Cross has had the book of business system-wide. That is so beyond what you asked, but I felt the need. Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
Alice.
Hi, thanks for this information. This has been very helpful, and I want to echo the comments of folks in Zoom. We've all also found this very helpful. I'm Alice Woolard in bioinformatics. My question is there a minimum threshold number of people who need to enroll in the dental plan, or does the $1 million provided by UNC act as a sort of retainer?
The reason that we would think that we could get favorable premiums and not have an unfavorable risk pool is that the RATA plan would offer dental insurance to all enrollees in the RATA plan. So all RAs and TAs would get dental insurance. It wouldn't be a pick and choose, I want dental, I don't want dental, because then you would get an unfavorable risk pool. You need a whole bunch of people that don't go to the dentist.
Okay,
that
so
you're
it's sort of
paying their premiums.
mandatory in a sense.
What's that? It would be
Okay.
like a mandatory plan,
I see.
and everybody would be enrolled in it.
Okay, thank
That
you.
would be the goal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Merry Christmas, by the way. I see the tree.
Awesome. I think we're going to probably have to end it there because
Of course. Yeah. I'm sorry if I went too long. And I apologize to the library folks who are like, oh my God, I didn't want to know anything about health insurance. Why did we get here on time?
I'm sure there's a lot more questions probably from the group, or there will be more questions. Can you share maybe how everyone could contact you, or like if they have a question, who they should contact?
Sure. They can contact me directly. We have representatives on our campus health advisory board, and they're able to get questions to us in this space. Jake is always knows where I am, and most of the time, so he can. Not that he stalks me, but he knows where I live during daylight hours. And also, very briefly, I wanted to mention that if you have not heard, And Jake, I don't know whether how much you've shared, but I think I sent you and probably Lauren on Thursday. For those that are interested, the system is going to provide there's a Zoom link, and they're going to provide information about where they are in the self-funded student health insurance plan process before it goes to the Board of Governors the end of this month. All of you, we're the members of the Chancellor Student Advisory Group, members of our Campus Health Advisory Board. Any of you who want to Zoom in at 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, I think Jake and Lauren have that Zoom link. Okay, okay, perfect. And that would be, and then I hope they say something very similar to what I've said tonight. If they don't, then I would take their word over mine, because they're the ones that are going to be taking it to the Board of Governors. But I think I got close. Thank you. I'm sorry if I went over.
No worries. Thank you so much for coming. I know we really appreciate. I know there were a couple more questions from the group, and so I just want to make sure we stay on. We've got a lot to do today, so I want to make sure we stay on schedule as good as we can. So I think next up we're going to be inviting some representatives from UNC libraries to come speak. Awesome. And they're here to talk about Wilson Library. So I'll hand this over to you. Go ahead.
Hi, can everybody hear me? I am Elizabeth Ott, and I'm the Interim Associate University Librarian for Special Collections and the Director of Wilson Library. And with me here today is Doug Diesenhaus, who's the Interim Associate University Librarian for Administrative Services for the library. That includes HR, finance, and library facilities. We're going to be talking about the Wilson Library Improvement Project. Go forward on the slide. Oh, yeah, can you do that? So just a little bit of background about Wilson Library. You probably know Wilson Library. It's a very distinctive building on campus, right at the end of Polk Place, across from the South Building. It's a visitor destination. It's often the one building on campus that people will come to when they come for a tour, to get photographed in the Grand Reading Room or on the steps. But it's also a center for research, especially in the humanities and social sciences. The building houses our special collections. That includes rare books and manuscripts. The university's official records are housed in Wilson Library, as well as a variety of other archival collections, audiovisual resources, and more. It also houses the North Carolina Digital Heritage Center, the library's digital production center. That's where we do reformatting and scanning of rare materials. It houses the music library and also the science annex. And then not part of the libraries, but housed in Wilson Library, is the Center for Faculty Excellence. In Wilson Library, we employ 60 library employees or more, and more than or about 50 library student workers. That includes undergraduate student workers as well as GAs and RAs. We have 11 CFE employees in the building, and we have a really robust and lively visitor culture. So we received over 54,000 visitors in 22-23. Collections are by far the vast majority of Wilson. If you've been in Wilson Library, you're probably like, what are you talking about? I've never seen collections in that building. That is because our special collections are in locked stacks, but 61% of the building is for material storage. That includes more than 500,000 rare books, plus 182,000 music library books and books that are part of the science annex. It includes millions of documents and photographs around spread across 10,000 archival collections. As I mentioned before, we also house audio and visual recordings. The music library also has commercial sound recordings, and we have 35,000 artifacts and artworks that are all housed in Wilson Library. So what is the improvement project? As a little bit of background on Wilson Library building, it was built in 1929 with additions in 1952 and 1977. It has not had a major renovation since 1986. That means that the building has a variety of issues that are related to its code compliance. Older buildings need to be brought up to modern code to make them safe, and Wilson is no different. In 2021, the state allocated $25.4 million to address Wilson's backlog deferred maintenance issues. The university subsequently added 5.8 million from other projects. So they said, we really want to get this building up to where it needs to be. So overall, we have a project budget of $31.1 million. What are we going to do with that money? Most of our improvement project is related to code compliance. So we really want this building to become safe for users and for collections. So that will include creating additional egress staircases and routes. So external stairwells will be built on the east and west sides of the building to provide additional fire safety egress. We will also be upgrading our fire alarms, and we'll be extending sprinkler coverage to the entire building. Right now, only a portion of Wilson Library has sprinkler coverage. None of our public areas have sprinkler coverage. We would like to get the building completely sprinklered so that in case of a fire, people are safe. All of these outcomes will bring Wilson Library up to code compliance and will lift building restrictions. So right now, because of our code non-compliance, we are in a construction moratorium. So we haven't had a renovation since 1986. We can't have a renovation until we come up to modern code. So future construction or renovations would be permitted after this project is complete. We also in Wilson Library currently have a fire watch. That is a state requirement that allows us to keep the building open despite its code deficiencies. And we would like to eliminate that and have a safe building for all students and researchers. We are also seeking some additional priorities outside the budget. So we're trying to get as much done as we can. One of those things is that we have aging elevators in the building. You've probably heard about elevator malfunction across campus. Wilson also has elevator issues. We'd like to modernize our elevators to eliminate those issues. Upgrade our restrooms and increase accessibility across the building. So in addition to life safety code compliance, we also want to bring ourselves up to ADA accessibility as much as we can. This is a high priority for the libraries, and we are trying to assign as much funding as we can to this. What will not be part of the $31.1 million budget is programmatic renovations. What I mean by that is that this is not a renovation project, it's an improvement project. So the building will look largely the same after the project is over. Any other renovations would be a separate project. But again, this is work that is required before any of those renovations could take place. In order for this work to be undertaken, we have to move all of those collections that take up 60% of the building. That will mean that Wilson Library will close for 2 to 3 years. This allows us to stay within budget because if we remove all of the collections from the building, we can get it done in a faster frame of time, and we're not worried about damaging irreplaceable historic artifacts that are stored in the building. This is a preliminary project timeline. So one of the things that we are thinking about is right now, the phase that we're in is called the design phase. So we are working with architects. They are making specific construction design plans, which they will deliver. When is the deadline for that?
They technically just delivered it and then they're finalizing it.
Yes, so we're in the finalization of the design and construction planning phase. In August 2024, the library services and collections will close, but the building will remain open. So what does that mean? That means that our research room where we serve our collections, our instruction program, all of the ways that people are able to access collections to research with them will shut down. But the public areas of the building, so that includes the Farrington Reading Room, the Grand Reading Room on the 3rd floor, and our other bookable meeting rooms will still be open to the public for the fall of 2024. So during that time, staff will be working on relocating collections and also themselves to temporary quarters during the building closure. In the spring of 2025, Wilson Library, the whole building will close to the public and also the collections will still be offline. Construction will begin in 2025 and the building will reopen in 2027. And the end of this list is just a reminder that the centennial for Wilson Library is 2029. So we're coming up on 100 years of this building being on campus. There are going to be some big impacts to these collections being moved off site. They will be unavailable for research and teaching. That is what we are anticipating. So we will be moving them to an off-site location, but we won't have retrieval, meaning that collections will just be closed during the 2 to 3 year construction period, and there will be no access to collections. We will have very limited ability to accept new special collections. So our acquisitions program will slow. We have a really active acquisitions program. And again, the library includes the university's records. So we're working very carefully to make sure that we can maintain official records and maintain service, but we will have very limited ability. The building itself will be unavailable for meetings, programs, reception, media tours, study, or instruction, and that will have a big impact. We have approximately 250 seats for student study and library instruction that are currently used in Wilson Library, and those will be unavailable. We will also not have as many student jobs. The library is one of the largest employers of undergraduate students. We also employ graduate students. Many of those jobs we will have to reduce because we won't have a need for them. We will have interim locations for the music library and the Center for Faculty Excellence. So music library materials will continue to be available, but in an alternate location from Wilson Library, and the Center for Faculty Excellence will temporarily relocate, and their services will be offered elsewhere on campus as well. This is like a lot of downer news, like collections are not going to be available, the building's going to close, all of that kind of stuff, but it is actually wonderful. And the reason why is that Wilson Library does need a full renovation. We're going to be a 100-year-old building very, very soon. And so this is our opportunity to look towards the future and to get the building in shape so that we can have it for the next 100 years. Alongside this project, the library is also going through a space planning initiative. So we're looking across all of our library spaces. There are 11 libraries on UNC's campus, and we're thinking about how we can maximize our use of space and really think about all of the libraries and how they should be best used. We're also looking at collection storage options, including high-density offsite storage. So right now, all of our special collections are housed in Wilson Library on site. That's very unusual for a library of our size. So by comparison, Duke keeps 30% of its special collections on site, and the rest are stored in high-density offsite storage. High-density offsite storage is better storage conditions for many historic artifacts. They can be better preserved at better temperature and humidity control in offsite storage. So that's definitely something that we'll be looking into during the course of this project. And we're also thinking about what the potential impacts for collection housing and study space will be for the future. We do have an email address. If you have further questions after this presentation is over or after Doug and I leave, you can email us. This is a central email that we respond to with any questions or concerns that you might have. We also have a website, which is up here with an FAQ and other information about the project that you can look up. Any questions?
Joshua Bakita, Computer Science. What are some of the areas of Wilson Library that are currently closed due to the fire safety issues that will reopen after the renovation?
So there aren't any areas that are closed currently. We have special provision from the state to operate, including the fire watch that I mentioned. So that is how we are able to operate right now, despite being not up to modern code. Yeah.
William Boyer for School of Information and Library Science.
Yeah.
For special collections and other research opportunities, since materials will be unavailable, like full unavailable, is your recommendation to go to either Duke's or NC State's or some other special collections if we need something? I know it's not equal to ours, but.
Yeah, so many of our special collections are unique. So it is true that some of our collections being unavailable will mean that some research or work just cannot take place until those collections are opened back up. That's just the reality of some of our unique materials. Some other things like rare books that are, there might be other copies at other repositories. Yes, you would have that option. In terms of, you said you're from the library school. So one thing we are thinking a lot about is that, as I said, the library is a big employer of students, and that includes many, many students in who are in the graduate school at SILS. So we are thinking about how we can still offer learning opportunities for SILS graduate students or undergraduate students who want to learn about special collections and are professionalizing in that area. But I will say that it is true that even now, many SILS students get internships or jobs at Duke or at State or at other area repositories. Yeah.
Alexander Stumpf, history.
Yeah.
So if I understand it right, you said that the Wilson Library also has like around 250 study places. So once the building will be closed, does the university library has like any plan to provide additional accommodation or study spaces in other buildings or changes to its operating hours?
Yeah, we are thinking about that. Right now, we don't have any plans to change operating hours at other locations, but we are looking at how we can increase study space and kind of absorb that impact. But we are really thinking about the fact that that is an impact. A lot of people think of Wilson as only a place that specialized research takes place, but it is used by a lot of students just for study. So it's something that we're looking across. And as I mentioned, we're doing a space analysis planning right now that is all of our library spaces. And that's part of it, thinking about what kind of study space students need and where it can best be provided across all of our library locations. Yes.
William Boyer from SILS. Results of the other studies going on, where would it be best to find those results when they are released?
That's a really good question. And probably I'm going to say the project website is the best place for updates on things like that. Do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, not all of them would necessarily be public. I think I definitely agree with Liz that the project website is going to really be the place for the progress for the project. I think with the space utilization, I think there may be some opportunities for us to show the results of that. And then just one other thing to mention, in addition to what Liz was saying, one opportunity for resources is digital proxies for resources that we have been doing an extraordinary amount of work to digitize some of the resources, certainly not all of them, but many of them. And then the second is going back to the email. We are asking scholars to reach out if there are any particular materials that they have a particular need about or are particularly necessary for their work. And we will see what is possible for making that accessible during the project. We don't know for sure, but we are trying to collect those requests and see what is possible for access during the project. And this email is the right place to send those requests.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'll just also add that can be, those needs might be personal, like my personal research, I need access to this. They could be instruction related. So if you're teaching classes and you regularly use Wilson Library materials in your teaching and instruction, that would be a portion of it. We've also gotten requests on this from people who know they're hosting conferences in the region during the closure dates, things like that. So yeah, if you have needs, we would love to hear about them. We can't make promises right now that we'll be able to take action on that, but we want to, and we want to know what the needs are so that we can be as responsive as possible.
Thank you all so much for coming. All right. Good stuff. Good speakers today. Next, we're going to move into open forum. I didn't have anyone sign up for open forum. I don't think we have anyone interested in speaking. The next thing on the agenda is we do need to select we have a vacant seat on the finance committee that we need to fill. However, if it's all right, I think I'm going to move that to the end of the meeting because I know there's some people that need to leave. So I'm going to scoot that to the end of the meeting. So if anyone's interested in finance committee, keep that in your brain for the end of the meeting. We're going to move on to legislation now. And we have a bunch of bills today. So let's try to be speedy about this. I am really quickly, we're going to start with 54-017. Let me open this really quick and so I can get the legislation on the screen. Okay, I believe this is this bill. Rob, do you want to go ahead and introduce the bill?
Sure. So this is a bill that basically collapses the distinction between what we call a Senate appropriation and a social appropriation. And it really just comes down to these like very few paragraphs in the code that previously the way it was written is that the definition of a social appropriation is that it is intended for social events only, which is completely ambiguous. And also it sort of really limits the ability of a lot of organizations to apply for more than $300 for events that like have a social component. And it really just depends on what the appropriation committee thinks. And I'm the vice chair of the appropriations committee. And I can tell you that we've had some people submit for funding. For example, there was a group who submitted for a 5K and they needed some funding for the police to shut down a road, and the 5K was open to all graduate students and it was to raise awareness of something. But because it was maybe more social than professional, we could only get them $300. And so there's also two budgets that are different between social and Senate. And based on what I've seen that folks submit to the appropriations committee for, there's really not a need to have this definition. The only difference between the Senate and social in terms of things that can and can't be purchased are alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, which means that if you have a Senate appropriation that's not social, you can purchase alcohol, tobacco, and firearms the way that it's written right now. So I haven't changed that, haven't changed anything except for the cap, getting rid of the cap of $300 because I'm getting rid of the definition of what a social appropriation is. Super straightforward. Yeah. So, I mean, some of the other reasons why I think it's appropriate is we've talked to a lot of folks in appropriations who say that they are needing to do social events because they lost a lot of members during COVID and they're trying to rebuild their organizations. And so they need to attract folks to the organizations. And so we have a lot more folks that are requesting for things with a social component, even though they are also professional. And so this would solve a lot of those problems. And just generally in terms of wellness, like I think that having a work-life balance and having more social events isn't something that we should be shy to or sort of cap. I mean, obviously there's a limit and we have that there's no alcohol, tobacco, or firearms. But yeah, so any questions?
Great, thanks so much. Yeah, go ahead right here.
I've been in talks with the sponsor of the bill, and I have 3 amendments. Would it be all right if we just did them like all together?
It's up to you.
Okay, so I would ask unanimous consent that the following amendments be considered in block. Okay. Amended as follows, that the sentence Title IX Financial Regulations of the GPSG Code be amended as follows, be inserted directly preceding Section 1, and that a Section 2 be inserted after the end of Section 1 with the following effective date clause inserted. This bill shall become effective immediately upon approval by the GPSG Senate. And lastly, that Riley Stahl, a senator for public administration, be added as a co-sponsor.
Can you tell me again what the first one was? I didn't quite understand.
Yeah, it's just an enactment clause. So at the
enactment
beginning, it just
clause.
says Title IX, financial regulations of the GPSG code be amended as follows. And then what Rob already got up there.
Okay. Is that considered a friendly amendment?
Yes, that's very friendly. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So I can type that up. Does anyone, oh, yeah, here, I can type that up, or maybe I can make someone else do it. Okay. Oh, this is what you emailed me. What was in the email? There were comments, right? In the email. Okay, that's a different thing. Never mind. Okay. Okay, I can type this out so that everyone can see what the final version will look like before we vote. But in the meantime, are there any other questions or discussion about the topic? Good.
Yeah, Joshua Bakita, computer science. I'll keep this quick. I think this is a very sensible thing. I think this distinction was created at the time GPSG branched off from undergraduate student government and was sort of a only existed really for clerical reasons and has not proven to be very useful ever. And so I would strongly endorse this bill.
Great. Anything else? Anything on Zoom? Oh, Kendall, go ahead.
Never mind.
Oh, you put. Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick question. Could you in the red sweater who stated the 3 amendments just state your name also for the minutes?
It's Joshua Bakita, computer science. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a bad habit of not saying my name. Ben King, Public Administration.
Thanks so much.
I'm law. Rob Jarrell, law.
I got you. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, La. We appreciate it. Go ahead.
Samantha Beck from BBSP. I just, as part of the appropriations bill, or as part of the appropriations committee as well, I do want to say that we are currently possibly running low on social appropriations funds. So yeah, please pass this. Thanks.
Great, thank you. All right, I think with that, I will make these changes and I will make sure that they're updated so you all can see the final version. I'm gonna just do what's on this piece of paper, if that's okay with everyone, because I can't do 2 things at once, but we'll go ahead and move on for discussion for the next bill. All right, so next we're gonna consider 54-018, which is the menstrual product resolution. Duncan, do I have these votes? Are these votes correct?
3 ayes, no, 0 nays, 0 abstains. That's correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to have Senator Ben King introduce this bill, if you don't mind.
All right. This is pretty straightforward. I can read it if you want. I also don't have to.
You can just TLDR.
Okay. So basically, this resolution calls on the university to put menstrual products in every bathroom across campus for free. Right now, it's my understanding that the Residence Hall Association uses student fees to pay for products in residence halls. But even then, it's my understanding that their goal is to provide 1 tampon and 1 pad for each resident per month. And that's not really, it's, yeah, thank you. And then back in 2016, the Carolina Union Board of Directors made menstrual products available to students in the Carolina Union. It's my understanding that that's still in place, but I'm not sure.
It is. Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, with that, I'm not really coming from a place where I can speak on this. So if other folks who maybe have more experience with this want to speak to it, that'd be much appreciated.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, yes, this is Riley Stahl, Public Administration. I want to say that I'm strongly in favor of this bill. This bill came about because in our town hall last year, we heard a really vulnerable story of a student in our cohort that was willing to share that she had missed classes from not having access to menstrual products in our building. And since then, the School of Government has put menstrual products in several of the bathrooms. So we just want to emulate that in the rest of campus. And it's really, I love seeing this bill make it to the floor now coming from a town hall. So urge you all to vote in favor of this bill, and Ben and I are happy to take any other questions you might have.
I'm going to actually ask a question. I wanted to ask this earlier, but SOGEPS didn't get a chance to meet and talk about this. I was told about a situation with some undergraduate residence halls where they had trash cans taken away from them in the restrooms for some convoluted reason. And there was some stuff that happened with like parent, I won't speak to the story. I don't understand. But I also cannot make a motion. So this is just sort of a comment. But I think it could be worth also mentioning, in addition to the menstrual products, having like hygiene, available, trash cans, like trash receptacles available. I think it would be pretty easy to just, and trash cans or something, but I can't make the motion myself. But I do think this was brought up to me by someone I talked to in JGC that mentioned something about this. So I just wanted to bring that up, but I'm not making a motion because I can't. Okay, Kendall, I think you had your hand raised.
Hi, Kendall Winter, Musicology. Beautifully written bill. I am excited to vote in favor of it on behalf of my department. I was hoping to make a motion to add the following 3 recipients to the list that you have here: Office of the Chancellor and Board of Trustees. Because we're asking the university to devise the plan, finance the plan, and roll it out, I think it would be wise to add the Vice Chancellor for Finance and Operations, the Vice Chancellor for Medical Affairs, and the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs. If that motion is friendly, I'd be happy to drop those names in the Zoom chat so they can be easily put into the resolution. Thanks.
I'd be happy to accept those as friendly. I also have 2 names I'd like to add. Ken Pittman, the Executive Director of UNC Campus Health, which I actually had that written down before he came today, so that's funny. And then Dean Blackburn, Director of Student Wellness and Associate Dean of Students.
Okay, well, it's your bill, so it's right. You can make it friendly to yourself. Joshua, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. This is Joshua Bakita, Computer Science. I would like to correct the spelling of Chancellor includes 2 L's, I believe. Furthermore, I'd also like to make an amendment that we add a further recipient who I think may be able to help follow up and with the Chancellor to make sure things happen, and add the Student Advisory Committee to the Chancellor, and so they can discuss this with him.
Yeah, that'd be friendly.
All right, Kendall, go ahead.
My apologies, I didn't put my hand down from before.
Okay. Brian.
Hey there, Brian Lackman, advisor. It's always weird. I just would also encourage you all to put Dr. Shauna Harris on that list as well too. She is the new director of the Women's Center as of December.
Okay, is someone writing these down?
No, I'm
okay.
not.
Luke is writing them down.
Got
Okay.
this. I'd be happy to accept that. Yeah.
All right. Any other? Yeah, go ahead, Riley.
Yeah, I'm also going to offer an amendment to section 1, the last sentence, to read, or I guess the only sentence, to read: the University, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, blah, 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 properly funding programs that provide free access to menstrual products and proper hygiene receptacles in all campus restrooms.
Is that friendly as well?
Yes.
Okay, we will get, Luke is writing those down, I hope, and we will get those at the end of the meeting. Any other comments, questions on this bill? Nothing. Okay, great.
Wait, I had a question. I tried to raise my hand. Sorry, you said you
Oh, go
use
ahead.
student fees. Is that the plan for this bill to also use student fees?
I think in the long term, that'd be the plan, but right now I left it pretty broad. In my mind, I'd just like to see it happen regardless of where the money's coming from. So I think maybe on the university side, that would be the plan, but I intentionally left it vague.
Point of clarification.
Yeah, go ahead.
Duncan McLean, Physics and Astronomy. I'm the chair of the SOGAPS committee. We, all voting committee members and myself who voted on the bill do endorse it. As a resolution, I think it's very eloquently written and we're all completely in support of it and the message of it. In terms of funding, such as using student fees to fund a program such as this, we can't really, I don't know if that would properly fit into a resolution. I imagine that would fall into a different kind of legislation entirely, which would have to go through finance if I'm.
Yeah, it depends on if we're calling for them to spend their fees, we could do that in a resolution. If we're saying we're going to spend our fee money that is part of our budget, it would have to go through finance. But if we just want to yell at them to spend their money on it, we could do that in a resolution.
Thank you.
I see someone on Zoom. Yasmin, go ahead.
Hi, Yasmin Sharifi, Marine Sciences. I have a question / comment that might seem a little nitpicky, but is very specific to my department. So Marine Sciences has essentially a satellite campus, the Institute of Marine Sciences, which is actually 3 hours away from Chapel Hill. And many of our grad students are actually not based on campus. We're based at this in this Institute of Marine Sciences, which is sort of like a satellite campus. So my comment / question is essentially regarding like the definition of quote unquote campus. When we say that menstrual products will be available on campus, is that main campus of Chapel Hill specifically, or would this apply to all university associated buildings? And I'm not sure if student fees apply to students at the Institute of Marine Sciences, because previously we were asked to waive out of the like mandatory student fees, which is no longer in practice. But the reason we were asked to waive out of them was because we were supposedly not receiving any benefits from them. So it would be great if it applies to all university buildings, because this is an issue that's come up in my department specifically, and the department doesn't seem to be very good at wanting to address this themselves. Thanks.
I answer the last part of your question first. With the fees, I'm not an expert in that, so I don't want to get caught up in that tonight. But with regards to the first part of your question, the way it's written now, it says all campus restrooms. So my understanding with how it's written would be that all bathrooms maintained or overseen by the university, this would apply to, regardless of whether they're necessarily on main campus or not. But I think that sort of might have to be taken by case issue, but hopefully if something comes of this, that's something that we could tackle then.
Joshua, go ahead.
Ben, this is Joshua Bakita, computer science. Ben, would you be amicable to perhaps a friendly amendment to change campus to just university?
I think it's the second to last word in section 1.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
All right, amendment made then, or motion made to make such amendment with now adopted as friendly.
Great. All right, going once, going twice. This bill is perfect. Great. Okay, let's move on. I like the specifics that everyone's using with their language. It's good. Okay, next we're going to move on to 54-019, which is an act to approve Vice President of Finance for the remaining term of the Hawkinson administration. Lauren, do you want to introduce this? Sorry, I didn't warn you in the slightest. You know, you could do from there if you'd rather. You don't have to get up. You can stay there.
Hello, everyone. This is a bill to approve Stephen Wright as our new Vice President of Finance. I'm really pleased to put this before you all. I'm really impressed with Stephen's credentials. He's got extensive experience in finance and in student government. He served in the undergraduate student government not so long ago in various financial roles as well. So I'm really confident in his ability to get us through the rest of this term. And I think he's going to be a great asset to the GPSG.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Joshua, go ahead.
Joshua Bakita, Computer Science. Is Stephen with us today?
Hello.
Stephen, could you speak briefly perhaps on some of your aspirations with this role, and if perhaps would you be interested in seeing this through into the next term, given providing the administration would be willing to work with you?
Yes, so when I was applying to this role, it was in the back of my mind that knowing there would be 3 to 4 months, in this current administration, that I would apply for the incoming administration, carry on in the same role, or attempt to at least.
Another part of that question was, what are some of your goals that you would like to see?
I believe that as I'm coming in midway through the year, a large part of it is clearing out the backlog that may be left from the previous tenant in the role, as well as working on some of the projects to get them off the ground with the administration's goals. I think several of those listed in the actual application were looking at a stipend schedule that's actually consistent, as well as we're looking at the large surplus that the GPSG currently has in its funds and how to slowly bring that down.
More quickly. Great. Oh, I think I saw this hand first.
William Boyer for SILS. I am a member of the Oversight and Accountability team, and we had the pleasure to interview Stephen, and we had nothing but good things to say after we asked him to leave so that we can deliberate. And so President Hawkins' belief and his own interview, we have nothing but good things to say, and we recommend to the Senate to vote him in for this position.
Great. There's a hand over here. Ben, go ahead.
Really briefly, just on behalf of the Public Administration Program, we're really excited to see Stephen stepping into this role. He's also a member of the Public Administration Program. Stephen's up to the job. He's, if no one's looked at his background, he's got an extensive background in undergraduate student government. And then now, as we study local government and budget and finance, this is right up his alley. So I think he's up to the job, and I would encourage everyone to approve the president's recommendation.
Fabulous. Any other hands? Any other comments? I don't see anything on Zoom. All right, thank you so much. Let's move on. And we vote on all of these at the end, by the way, so we're not skipping you, I promise. We're going to move on now to 54-020, which is the December Travel Awards bill. Nick, are you here?
Yep, I'm here. I'm online. Hi, all. Nick Melosi, Health Policy and Management. This is our traditional Travel Awards bill. We closed this cycle on January 5th. We reviewed them all. There were 16 applications, of which we recommend 9 for funding, and our total amount of funding this cycle is going to be $4,000. So with that, that leaves us with the remaining, we've spent $21,975, or we've awarded that amount. We're going to be contacting some people who have yet to actually accept the award or put in their reimbursement to make sure that they're doing that. And if they're not going to, we'll add those funds back in, because as of right now, we have 3 cycles left with a remaining budget of $13,000. And I'm happy to take any questions you guys might have.
Seeing none. Okay, thank you. Good stuff. Thanks, Nick. Okay, we're now going to move to 54-021, which is the appropriations bill for the last cycle. I forget who does this. Is it Riley? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so this is our regular monthly appropriations bill. We received 7 applications and we were able to at least partially fund all 7. So as you can see on the bill, we spent $4,300 in general appropriations and $800 in social, for a total of, over $5,000 for this month. I don't have our totals remaining in both balances right now in front of me, but if anyone wants to know, I can bring them up later. But yeah, happy to take any questions.
Go ahead.
Megan Fenrich from Department of Environment Studies. I actually would like to know how much is left for the general appropriations, or roundabout how much you have left.
I can get that in 1 minute. Maybe not 1 minute. I'll offer it during my committee update.
Any other questions? Nope. Oh, Kendall, go ahead.
Hi, Kendall Winter, Musicology. I was just wondering if you could report on what the vote was from appropriations. I don't see anything in the table at the first page. I assume it was unanimously supported.
Yes, all of our applicants are passed unanimously.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry,
I
that
guess
might have
I'd-
been my bad.
That's okay. I guess I'd make a motion to amend the bill so that the committee vote is reflected in that table on the first page.
That's friendly.
I assume it's a 400 vote or a 300 vote.
Is it 3? Do you know 4?
Yeah,
Okay.
4 voting members.
Yeah, thanks.
I will fix that later. Thank you for catching that. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Moving on, making good time. I just have to compliment everyone. Thank you. It's awesome. Okay, we're going to move on to our final resolution. This was a resolution that, if you remember, we added to the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, which is 54-022, which I didn't get a chance to update the name on here, like the number. I just realized. So that's my apologies. I will make sure that gets fixed. Kendall, if you want to go ahead and introduce this.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Happy to. So you probably all know that we just got a new interim chancellor installed on Friday of last week. Shortly, there will need to be a search advisory committee convened to conduct the search for the next permanent person to hold that office. That committee is convened by the UNC system president as required by our state laws. And it came to our attention that in discussions with President Lauren Hawkinson about the committee composition, it hadn't occurred to the system president to appoint a graduate or professional student to this committee, which we think is a big mistake. So the resolution lists several reasons why a graduate or professional student should be appointed to this committee, which are then sort of written out in prose in the letter that accompanies the resolution. But to rattle off some of those reasons for you, because I know most of you haven't seen this bill yet, it is sort of required that the committee, it's a 20-person committee, I should say, first of all. So there's no reason that there shouldn't be at least 2 students on a 20-person committee. The bill talks about how we are a distinct constituency from the undergraduates because of our demography, our academics, our professionalization. I'm sure there's other things I wrote in there about what makes us different and why our priorities on this committee would be different from those of undergraduates. Different and complementary, of course. It's also better for the students who are on this committee to be able to reflect the needs of their unique constituency rather than having to sort of wear 2 hats at the same time. When we hired Kevin Guskowitz in this role in 2019, there were 2 students on the committee, 1 graduate and one, or excuse me, I think it was a law student actually, and an undergraduate student. So there's precedent for this. Also on campus, we have a culture where our two parallel and co-equal governments are often brought into these campus-wide task forces in equal share or in proportional share. So it's a reflection of our campus culture for the search for our chancellor to include both a graduate or professional student and an undergraduate student. I would be happy to take questions on the legislation, on the list of recipients, which is the system president, the current chancellor and provost, the chair of the board of governors, the chair of our board of trustees, and then all the deans on campus. That's kind of a boilerplate list that we use a lot of the time when we write these types of resolutions. And then there's a 1-page, 1.25 page letter that summarizes the resolution for the recipients. Yeah, I'd be happy to take questions or motions for amendments.
Why were we ever left off of this, especially if like when you picked Kevin, there were 2 students before, and like was Peter still
Yeah.
UNC system president at the time?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually had an interim system president at the time. The system president at the time that we did the search for Kevin Guskiewicz was in 2019. That person was Bill Roper, who had previously been on our campus. And then he was not hired as the system president. That was Peter Hans, and he came from the UNC, no, sorry, not the UNC, the North Carolina Community College system into the UNC system. So that's the reason why perhaps he didn't know there was precedent for this, but we'd like to very much impress upon him that that precedent is something that we as graduate and professional students would like to see honored going forward.
Yes,
Great
I already
question.
mentioned that I fully support this. And I don't know how it works to pick a chancellor, but like what would be the chance of Lee Roberts becoming chancellor after being interim chancellor?
Well, Kevin Guskiewicz was the interim chancellor when they hired Kevin Guskiewicz to be the full-time chancellor. So I don't know. They hadn't hired that's the only chancellor search that I personally have been through, and I haven't looked back through those records, but I think the chances are pretty high that he will probably apply and likely be a finalist and could be installed. I mean, that happened. I mean, I don't want to get too in the weeds on this, but frequently people who serve in interim capacities then become the permanent person on these types of high-level admin searches.
Awesome. Ashim, do you want to go ahead on Zoom?
Yeah, thank you. Hashim, Amira, Economics. Kendall, thanks for putting up this legislation. I do have a question regarding the selection criteria that they use and that they have used in the past. Is it completely up to the president to choose these students? And would it make sense for us to impress perhaps where, we could propose, I guess, saying, these 2 slots are reserved for us and, the GPSG Senate gets to elect 2 members to fill these positions? Is that something that we've thought about or would be open to? Or are there like unintended consequences that I'm not foreseeing here?
So I've cited throughout this legislation, for those of you who are trying to read through it, I've cited a document called the UNC Policy Manual, which is kind of like a legal document about the different roles here. I know from reading that the system president, the chair of the board of governors, and the chair of the board of trustees for our campus are each ex officio required to be appointees to this 20-person committee, which leaves 17 seats open. Then actually, I think the system president isn't technically a committee member. So there might be 18 seats. At any rate, it doesn't matter. The rest of the committee, it is entirely the president's discretion to determine who's on the committee, but he is required by by that law. Sorry, I'm trying to look for the exact citation in the legislation, in the resolution, I mean. Broadly representative of the interests of students, faculty, staff, administrators, alumni, and the UNC system, which typically means, and for those of you who are interested in seeing it, as of yesterday, the website for the previous search from 2019 that hired Kevin Guskowitz, that website was still active as of yesterday. So you could see the old committee or the former committee membership. It included representatives from faculty, from different departments of support staff. I think the president of the Alumni Association was on there. There's 2 students I mentioned. There were a couple of appointees from the system office. So our point is basically, if the person elected to or selected to be the chancellor is supposed to be representing the interests of the institution, then it makes sense that the students who are part and parcel to the institution are well represented and broadly represented as the language in the policy manual requires. And yeah, that would be at least 1 graduate or professional student and 1 undergraduate student. In terms of how those people get selected, the letter attached to this resolution suggests that our GPSG president, Lauren Hawkinson, and her chief of staff, Abhigna Rao, could work together to identify a slate of nominees for the benefit of Peter Hahn so that he doesn't have to just, draw a name out of a hat, but we could say, we recommend any one of these students for him to pick. But yeah, how he assembles the committee is by law his discretion.
Joshua, yours, the next hand I saw.
Yeah, thank you. This is Joshua Bakita, Computer Science. Kendall, have you engaged with any undergraduate stakeholders, as I imagine they may be interested in passing potentially a concurrent resolution using similar verbiage?
I have not spoken directly to anybody, but I have, through an intermediary, learned that our student body president, Chris, is receptive to this proposal. I would be happy to forward this, provided that it gets passed by this body tonight. I'd be happy to forward it on to Andrew Gary and others on the undergraduate side to see if they want to pass this as a concurrent resolution.
Thank you.
Chris, do you want to speak to that being true? Are you cool with that? I don't.
What was the question again? Can you
The question, so the bill's about having a graduate student on the search committee for the chancellor. The question was having undergraduates potentially also support this and do joint legislation. Is that cool? And Kendall said that you might be in support of that. And I wanted you to say for yourself if you were in support of that.
This is the first time hearing about this, but I totally am. I think it's important. I think Andrew Gary's outside actually, but I'd be happy to help out and definitely support this piece of legislation.
I might talk to him afterwards too and see if we can do a last minute. I was going to go to their Senate meeting anyway, so I can talk to him and see if we can do something last minute if we pass it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daliana, go ahead. Yeah, you might have to use that other one wasn't working for me. It's complicated.
Daliana Alfonseca, Director of Academic Affairs for GPSG. Do we know when this is beginning, when this search is going to start, when this committee is being built, what timeline we have?
If that question is for me, I don't know when the committee will be announced, but I believe in 2019, the committee was announced within 6 weeks of the appointment of the interim chancellor. I wouldn't swear to that, but like I said, that website was still active as of yesterday, so we could go back and reconstruct that timeline. Yeah, so my concern is that if we table this for a future meeting, we might be having a moot point. There might be a committee already announced, and we could be sort of powerless to influence the composition of the committee after that point.
Thank you so much.
Alice, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Alice Woolard, Bioinformatics. Thanks for the bill, Kendall. Would this put a student in just for this particular search, or would this apply for every future search for chancellor?
Another great question. So it would just be this particular search committee.
Great,
So
thank
we're looking to hire the 13th chancellor. When they need to hire the 14th chancellor, a brand new committee will be convened for that.
Thank you.
Okay, Duncan.
Yeah, hello, Duncan McLean, Physics and Astronomy. I wanted to echo the words of this resolution sponsor and say that this is a very time-sensitive matter. It is entirely possible that the administration could, announce the search committee tomorrow. They could announce it 3 weeks from now. They could announce it 8 weeks from now. But I would say that it's very important that GPSG makes it known that it's important to have a graduated professional student on this committee as soon as possible, so that that figures into the decision-making of the UNC system president and into the interim chancellor. So, SOGAP's committee voted on the holiday weekend for this. We really think it's very timely, and we'd urge you to vote in favor.
Do I have that in here?
May I be recognized?
Yeah, that just reminds me, Duncan, remind me that I need to add the votes that you all did on your committee to this bill before too long. Kendall, go ahead.
Yeah, to that point, the SOGAPs voted on this bill this morning unanimously to recommend 400. And I wanted to recognize that in the chat, there is a motion, the question, which has at least 5 thumbs ups. So if there
Yeah,
are
I'm gonna
no,
motion the question on this.
yeah, go for it.
Motion to call the question.
Okay, basically this would end discussion is what the purpose of this motion would be. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any objections? Any objections on Zoom? All right. That will pass by unanimous consent. Okay. I believe that is the end of our legislation. What do you want to say?
Yeah, that. Hey,
do you want to tell
yeah,
people?
I called in the Speaker of the Undergrad Senate for a second to just brief him on what's going on. Can you send me this exact language and we can get it on their docket for the meeting that starts in 15 minutes?
I will do it very quickly.
Perfect,
Yes, I will
thank
send
you.
it to you. Yes. Let me get to a point where I can get away, and yes. Great. Okay. That's going to end our discussion of legislation. We're going to move on to ballot voting. So please go ahead. The ballot should be open. It should be correct on my first try this time this week. I just want to remind everyone, one senator per unit can vote. Please make sure that you are talking to your co-senator and you both do not simultaneously vote. Also, please make sure that you submit. After you get to the last question, make sure you hit submit to confirm your submission on HeLife. I've had a few people that they thought they voted and it didn't go through. Make sure that you get all the way to the end and hit submit on the ballot is really important. We're going to go through updates. In the meantime, while everyone is voting, please raise your hand and let me know if you have any questions on voting and need help. I think we're going to start with our GPSG president, Lauren Hawkinson. Do you want to come up here? It's up to you. You have a nice shirt on, so maybe it's a good day to be on camera.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, I have a nice shirt on because I met with the interim chancellor this morning. And I feel like we had a good discussion. He was really interested to hear what the top concerns were from the graduate students. So I conveyed to him some of the things that we've been working on, particularly around graduate student well-being. And I think several times he followed up with, okay, well, what can South Building do specifically to help with this? What can we do to help forward this onto the faculty? He seemed like he was an active listener and took notes while I was speaking as well with him. So I was encouraged by that meeting, and I'm hopeful that we can work together with him over the next few months while he's serving in his interim role. Additionally, while y'all are voting, I would just urge you all to vote yes on the resolution to get a graduate student represented on the hiring committee for chancellor. I think it's really, really important that our voices are heard. That was another thing that I spoke with the interim chancellor about this morning, was the fact that graduate students are often forgotten about on campus and our voices aren't included in discussions that are happening, not just on hiring committees, but in other working groups. So I just urge you to vote yes on that resolution. I will also bring that up during my remarks to the Board of Trustees on Thursday. They meet tomorrow and Thursday. Thursday, myself and the student body president have time to address the board. So I will also include our urge to include a graduate student on the hiring committee for chancellor on Thursday as well. Lastly, I want to update you on the graduate student experience initiative, which is the working group title for our graduate student well-being committee. The steering committee has members from across campus on it. I think almost every college or every department is represented. So I'm really excited about that, all the voices that are on that committee. And the high-level administrators that are on that steering committee as well. There are 4 main points that they are working on right now. The first is campus resource navigation. So the graduate schools updating their website to make sure that campus resources are easily accessible and graduate students can find the resources that they need, as well as follow along the processes that they need to follow to access those resources. The second is expansion of counseling services. The steering committee is recommending that there are more embedded counselors across campus. So really excited to see how that moves forward. There's also number 3 is mentorship training. So this is something that the steering committee wants to work with the Center for Faculty Excellence on to provide mentor training for faculty members who have graduate students as mentees. And this would be something that would be required of them to complete if they are going to have graduate students. Yeah, mandatory. And then lastly, teaching assistant training. So a lot of graduate students who serve as teaching assistants receive no type of training before they are put into a classroom in front of undergraduate students. Or other graduate students. So part of the initiative here is also to provide better resources for graduate students who will be taking on a TA role. So as we are providing more resources for our faculty to become better mentors, we also are providing resources for the students to become better TAs. And that is all I have for you, unless there are questions that I can answer from y'all.
Do you think we could
Joshua.
get? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you think we could get the interim chancellor at a Senate meeting?
I can definitely ask. That would be great.
Joshua Bakita, computer science. Thanks for talking about this thing, Lauren. Do you know if there's been discussion about mandatory training, not only for teaching assistants, but also for instructors of record?
Yes, I think that is included in
Thank you.
in the TA training. Yes, because I know I'm an instructor of record and I would have benefited greatly from some better guidance. All right, great. Hand it back to Katie.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. Next, we're going to move to our student body president. Chris, go ahead. You can just do it from there if you want. That's fine.
Thanks, everyone. I also met with the interim chancellor last week. That was a great meeting. And to Lauren's point as well, he was very interested in student issues and looking at ways to ingrain himself into the Carolina community. So looking forward to seeing how that goes, as well as our trustee meetings coming up tomorrow and Thursday, excuse me. I've been in conversation with some of the trustees, as well as Troy Blackburn, the EXSS chair, and Jason Halsey, the director of Campus Rec. We've scheduled a tour for the trustees this upcoming Thursday of the SRC and Fetzer, that kind of general recreational area. Been working alongside Lauren, which has been really great to get some attention to that as well. And I had the interim chancellor's confirmation that it's also a priority of his to look at the kind of recreational facilities, to see what we can do about fixing those up as well. So looking forward to a tour at 4 p.m. on Thursday. If you work out then, please be there. That would be great. Yeah, just definitely looking forward to showing them around and getting some more eyes on this. There's also Association of Student Governments this upcoming weekend at App State. It might or might not be happening. It's kind of up in the air right now, but looking forward to that as well. As a little plug, the University Office for Diversity and Inclusion is going to be celebrating MLK Week this week. So there's a lot of different events. But on Thursday, there's the annual MLK lecture and award ceremony. That'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. in Memorial Hall. So please feel free to come by. The keynote speaker is going to be Michelle Alexander. She's a New York Times bestselling author of The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness. So looking forward to hearing her speak. But other than that, undergrad student government is very, very busy. My office specifically is working on a charity pickleball tournament, which we're super excited for in the coming months. And we're also working on the distinguished lectureship. And that'll be kind of my last hurrah as a student body president. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions from anyone.
Are there any questions for Chris from anywhere?
Am I having fun was the question. I actually tore my meniscus over break playing pickleball. So I have surgery next week. So fun's a big word, but like I'm here and I'm smiling. So we'll see.
You have not sold me on playing pickleball.
I do really want to check, was this the correct, all of the names for this? This is the
I saw Becca Beagle in chat as well.
That's the Student Advisory Committee of the Chancellor. Did I miss any other names?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know that was the same.
Okay. Yes.
Ken Pittman, Executive Director of UNC Campus Health. And then Dean Blackburn, Director of Student Wellness.
Point of information, technically the amendments are part of the official record as recorded, and this can be addressed after the meeting.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew what the updated bills were. So that's this. And I also just wanted to share the updates to the new section, the effective clause, section 2 of the bill about appropriations are there. So if anyone was concerned and their vote was contingent on that, that is now in place. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Okay, we're gonna go through, we'll make this real snappy, go through updates from each of the standing committees. Let's start with O&A. You always get lucky, you get to go first. Is anyone from O&A here today by chance?
I mean, I'm ex officio on it, so like I could say something if none of the rest of them are there.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, William
why not-
Boyer is here.
Yeah, why not you go ahead and give it if you're okay. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Hi, I'm William Boyer from SILS. I'm also a member of the O&A committee. As I said earlier, this meeting time we interviewed our wonderful, hopefully new member of the executive committee. So please vote yes. And then at the end, we also talked about our future for what O&A can do and what we want to do. So our next meeting, we are going to be investigating how we can amend the rules and amend the code to see how O&A can best serve the GPSG. As at the moment, we kind of sit around and twiddle our thumbs and hope that everybody does their job right. And so far, 99% yes, but we would like to also be helpful in other ways. So we are going to be discussing that in the future.
Awesome. I'll add something too, just to mention, ONA will also be reviewing all of the mid-year reports for the executive board and for all of the standing committees. I think you all have at least gotten the ones for the standing committees. Everyone in Senate will receive those, but just, ONA will be looking at those. But I don't think y'all talked about it yet. So no worries that you didn't mention it. Yeah. Okay. Next is SOGAPS.
Hello again. Good evening. Duncan McLean, SOGAPS Committee, Physics and Astronomy is my RU. So SOGAPS had a specially scheduled meeting last week on the first week of classes to make up for us being unable to meet in December. There was not a whole lot of movement on any particular issue because we couldn't assemble all of our voting committee members, but we've agreed on our courses of action for January, a lot of which is about getting information out there to senators on town hall information and on talking about the future of health benefits for graduate and professional students. So we're trying to assemble some materials and pamphlets for that we want to get to people as soon as possible. Hopefully by the end of the month, we should have drafts of these ready. We also looked over resolutions that are being considered today. We're also looking for some information. We're looking for follow-ups on information from the last couple of months on the Bill of Rights and campus safety information. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions? If anyone just has any questions, go ahead and raise your hand after each one. Next is travel awards.
Yep. Nick Melosi, Health Policy and Management. We're in pretty good shape. We have, like I said, we have over 13,000 remaining in the budget for the next 3 cycles. So the next big thing for us is going to be going through and making sure, following up people who were given awards, making sure that they actually are submitting it for reimbursement, and if not, getting those funds back into the budget. So this way we can award them out to other applications. So if anyone has any questions, happy to take them now.
Thanks, Nick. Appropriations.
Yes, okay, so I have our remaining balances. So we currently have $15,559 left in our general appropriation fund and $600 left in our social appropriation fund, which at the end of tonight may no longer be relevant. It's also highly likely that you'll see this committee come before the Senate asking for more funds moved into our budget before the end of the year. I do want to note to everyone that there was a typo in our schedule for this funding cycle that we're in right now. So it says that our applications are due today, but since we're not meeting until later in January, we're going to accept applications until January 20th. So feel free to send them in up until then. Our committee member, Samantha Beck, has made a great advertisement for us that we'll be able to send out and you can share during your town halls or to any of your constituents. And then, like Nick said, we also are going to hopefully work with the new VP of Finance to see how much money we actually have left in our accounts before we spend it all. So thank you. I'll take any questions.
Great. Questions? Okay. R&J.
Hello. So we have not had first meeting of the semester yet, but that'll be later this month. We've nailed down the time. It'll be Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And then I believe we're going to try for next week at 6, but I'm waiting to hear back from the committee since I was late to getting that information out to them. And the final time will be posted for everyone. We did work very quickly to review the appropriations bill that you guys will all be voting on. So finance or Raleigh and Rob were super awesome in getting that to us, and our committee thoroughly vetted it. So hopefully you guys all approve those changes. And then for the future forward looking, there are some things coming down the pipeline that we're expecting to make it to the committee. But right now, the only solid focus and plans that we have is to work on the annual review of the code. So we will be soliciting from different committees as well as members of the executive for insight and reviewing some of the documents from the mid-year and end-of-year reports. But if there are any other pressing concerns or interests or areas you'd like us to consider making changes to, we'd be happy to take those on as well. But other than that, I do not have any other updates. And happy to take any questions.
I'll add a question comment. This is the first that Nick has heard about this, but I'm going to tell you about it now. I did receive a request. There's been an audit of our joint code, not joint code, our constitution, that has been brought by someone from the undergraduate senate who's been doing a lot of work. And I know some people have already had the chance to look at it. I do not believe we're going to be able to have a Senate meeting before we need to have it finished and passed in order for it to go to, it has to go to a general referendum during the election. It's not required to pass in our Senate. So what I'm going to ask R&J to do, and I apologize that I'm telling you this now in front of everybody, but what I'm going to ask R&J to do is to try to hold a special session in the next week or so to discuss those constitutional changes. And so those discussions can be brought to the Joint Governance Council when that change, that large bill gets brought to Joint Governance Council. So please look out for specifics about that. I'm happy to organize it if that's easier. But it's important because it's our Constitution and it's a bunch of stuff. So we weren't able to fit it in today because of timing. So I just wanted everyone to be aware that that is coming in the next week or so.
Yeah.
So sorry to drop that on you.
No worries. Happy to, once you or I get the copy of the updates, we can work on sending out a blast email and have a special session for that. I mean, as you, Katie, know, I have seen it and made lots of comments about some other amendments, but when we get the next update, R&J will host a meeting for everyone.
Joshua, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Katie, this is a question for you directed at that. So just to be clear, you're saying that the undergraduates are planning to bypass us in the major constitutional changes they're trying to enact?
It's not required by the rules of JGC.
It has to be passed by JGC.
It has to be, no, it definitely, we want to pass it in JGC. The goal, so they're going to pass it. Then our goal, what the special session is going to do is the graduate student members of JGC will know the things that are important to graduate students so they can bring them to JGC, make those changes in JGC, and then hopefully as a group, we can approve it for everyone can agree and then put it on the final referendum.
All right. I would strongly urge our representatives in JGC to veto anything that does not go through the full Senate, but or to vote against. But
yeah, I think the good thing is if we do the special session, we can everyone can come and we can talk about what those things are going to be. So yeah, Nick, go ahead.
Katie, did you happen to send earlier copy out to the full Senate?
I sent a draft version. I have a final version that has not been sent to everyone.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I have the final version, but everyone should have gotten the draft months ago. So I would urge you to read that. And as the final version comes out, like that will obviously be sent to everyone as well. And if you can come prepared with your comments or just email them straight to me, like happy to incorporate them. But I believe everyone should have at least got an opportunity to see the draft. It should be in your emails.
Yeah, and if we get to the point that you all decide that this is not appropriate, like you don't want this passed, that is an option that we do have. We don't have to pass it. So you all have the power to do that. I'm just this is just where we're at, trying to be practical about it, but we can talk more at that session. So expect an email from us about that. Awesome. Any other questions? All right, and then Finance Committee, you're going to be last. Go ahead.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. So we have 54 representative units in the Senate this current academic year. We have approved 4 town halls funding requests. And so that means we have a remainder of 50 representative units that should be hosting town halls this semester. So that being said, the finance committee is is actively receiving, reviewing, and responding to all of those requests. And the finance committee is meeting twice per month to process all of these applications. I do have a few that are pending in my inbox, and again, will be reviewed by the finance committee. If you have not yet submitted your funding request for your town hall, please consider submitting that application sooner rather than later. One brief reminder, which is that if your funding request exceeds $120, the finance committee is asking for an itemized budget, preferably in an Excel sheet, as well as a budget justification. If that is not provided and your budget request does exceed that amount, we will follow up and request that information. But again, that is that we do have that $120 threshold. So if it does exceed that amount, we will request for additional information. Aside from that, we have a vacancy on the committee. So if anyone is interested in serving on the finance committee, please consider nominating yourself. We'd love to have you. And then lastly, what's coming up this semester is not only processing all of the town hall funding requests, but also preparing to build the 2024-2025 budget. Any questions?
That does remind me that I did skip over our nomination to fill the empty seat of the finance committee. And I think now that we're done with these updates, I think now's a good time to come back to that. So let me go back a bunch of slides really quickly. So what we're asking, there is an empty seat. I'm required to ask to fill it at basically every meeting until we fill it. So I am looking for nominations for someone who would be willing to serve on the finance committee. It's a twice a month, hour-long meeting, mostly reviewing town hall requests and then also bills related to finance. I can get into more detail if you're curious. Is there anyone interested who would like to nominate themselves? Anyone on Zoom? All right, hearing none, we'll do it again next meeting. Awesome. Until we find somebody. Okay. Last couple things. Sorry, I skipped a bunch of slides. The leadership updates from the executive team, as always, are available in Canvas. I've already uploaded them there. You can see a list of information. Technically, this month is the mid-year reports of all of the executive team, although I don't think everyone's had a chance to fill them out yet. So I'll update that when we get everyone. So please look for that there. And then a couple of super important announcements for all of you. If you're not paying attention, pay attention to this part because it's really important. I need all of the senators, well, specifically one senator per unit, to fill out the election registration form. This form is the form that will make sure that we know when you want to have your election for your next cycle of senators. We need to make sure we know if you're continuing on as a senator. We need to make sure we know who the point of contact in your department is. Please, please, please fill this out as soon as you can. Sooner rather than later would be really helpful. If you have no idea how to answer any of the questions, I did link a copy of last year's election registration form just as a cheat sheet if you really don't know what to put. Also, please ask me if you're stuck and you don't know the answer to a question. We have some units that have never filled this out. And so we really need, please fill it out. I will hunt each of you down until you do it. Thank you. Next, just a reminder, Joel already touched on this, town halls coming up quick. If you have not scheduled your town hall, you need to do this ASAP. The town hall reports, meaning the report that you complete after you've completed your town hall, is due on March 9th. I talked to the finance committee. I'm not going to make up a date. There is a date that the funding request forms are going to be due. It's going to be a little bit before March 9th. So if you're asking for money, That will be due a little bit before March 9th. I don't want to tell you a date that I don't know off the top of my head. I need to look that up. But if you have not planned for your town hall yet, you need to do it ASAP. ASAP. If you have no idea what to do, definitely email me. We have a handbook in Canvas that has a lot of great information. We have a workshop on our YouTube channel that says how to host a town hall. So please check out those resources. The last thing is we're looking for people to join a committee. We want to have a formal or a dance or a party at the end of the year. We're calling it a name that is from old years past, Pretty Huge Dance, PhD, it's fun. And we are looking for people to help organize it. You will get participation points. I haven't quite figured out how many participation points it's going to be, but I can figure that out. There's an interest form on Heal Life. I put it here. It's in the agenda. Even if you're like mildly interested in just slightly helping out, I think this is going to need a few people, and I'm going to help, but like I can't do it. So we have to find some other people who are excited about this. So please do that. As always, we have a YouTube channel. Funding information, I'm pointing the wrong way. Funding information you can find on the new funding processes document that we shared last meeting. All right, and with that, I think, does anyone not vote? Did everybody vote? Did anyone not vote?
Motion to adjourn.
Second the motion.
Do we want to hear the result of the ballot?
Yes, please.
Yeah, let's hear that first.
Okay, so technically there's some objections. Okay. Okay, if we withdraw.
Motion withdrawn, just give the ballots.
Okay, ballots.
Passed by a huge margin.
Sweet.
Motion to adjourn.
Second the motion.
No objections. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for a quick meeting. Good job. We had so much stuff to do and we killed it. So awesome. Thank you, everyone.